Good evening, Saints fans, and welcome to another Monday evening where we're running with the Saints here with head football coach of your varsity NSA Saint football, Mike Biehl. Mike, how you doing this evening?
I'm doing great, Rags. How are you?
Hey, I'm doing great. Also, let's see. So, how was last week with a bye week and you know practice and just get work on some things last week since there was no Friday or Saturday afternoon game.
Yeah, I think, just like we talked the last time, you got to have a plan. You better be pretty specific with some of the things that you want to get accomplished and be really, transparent with the goals that you want to get out of that week. Otherwise, man, it's really tough to keep 14 to 18-year-old kids motivated without that game at the end of the week. And our guys are no different, but I thought we got better in some of the areas that we really pointed to in film. That we know we needed to get better in terms of some communication issues. You can't get enough reps on the little things, but you can spend time to break down the technique and really take the time to go back to some of those longer individual periods that you get during preseason that you get accustomed to that kind of just vanish once the season starts. So I thought it was good. I thought our guys handled it pretty well. Like I said, we're a pretty young team, so that can be difficult, but you try to ramp up the competition in different parts of practice and kind of give different guys the opportunity to step in roles that maybe they don't necessarily get to step into all the time during a game week. So I thought it was pretty good.
Yeah, and now here with back to school today, and it's it's game week, so you guys got practice here after school today, but at the end of this week, not only is it time for to tee it up, but also first time at home.
Yeah, we're excited. That's what we said today. I think we said a couple shows ago that we treat Monday very similar to a college in terms of they've got the weekend off, and then we come in on Monday and lift and run and watch film, and that's what we did. But we go over the scouting report and talk about the different things that we need to do to make sure we earn the win and things we got to take away from them and things that we got to do offensively and all that stuff. But part of you know our goals on both sides of the ball is to bring more energy, be more physical. But one of the things that I said in that meeting today was, man, if you can't bring energy for the first time playing in front of your home crowd, then something's wrong. I mean, I think we're all kind of chomping at the bit to play in front of our crowd. We got some new stands and a new press box that went in that looked great, and I'm sure our fans are going to really show out and show their support like they always do. But it's a great opportunity, like it always is.
Yeah, and Richmond Collegiate coming in, they're 1-1. I mean, they lost first game 36-32 against you know uh, um
Armstrong.
on against Armstrong. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I knew of Goochland, but I didn't recognize the school of AHS. I mean, I know that Richmond Collegiate is a non-conference for you guys, but they lost week the first game, and then they beat Goochland, you know, in their second game. So it's the battle of one-on-ones.
Yeah, yeah, and I tell you what, that game against Armstrong was, as someone who was, sitting breaking it down play by play, I was on the edge of my seat, and it was as dramatic a game as you could ask for in a week one by both teams. And it was interesting because a bunch of guys seem to have been missing for collegiate. On both sides of the ball, it looked like there were guys that weren't suited up, but they had guys coming in and out at different spots. I imagine it was really hot that day, and that had something to do with it. But Armstrong did a great job. Like you, I wasn't very familiar with them, but they're very physical, very fast, very athletic. Played their absolute tails off, and Armstrong actually got up on them by 2 possessions, and then they came roaring back and punch one in to get down a possession. But then their quarterback goes out. They're very highly recruited, very talented quarterback comes out, and what's-my-call-it? They collegiate forced a punt, and in walks the offense, and all of a sudden I see a guy throwing the ball, and I'm marking the whole deal. I'm marking who's throwing it, who's catching it, and I look, I'm like, that's not 15. It was his little brother. His little brother comes in, who's number 13, who's also like 6'3", 210 pounds, but throws it a little bit differently, moves a little bit differently. So he's trying to find his way through a couple series, and then Armstrong gets it back, and it was like a scene out of a movie, Rags. They're in the fourth quarter. They get the ball back with about 5 minutes left. The younger brother gets a first down, and then they find themselves in like 3rd and 13, and in walks the older brother on 3rd down. Fires a 22-yard strike, gets a first down, drives all the way down the field. They score with 45 seconds left in the game to go up 2.
Yeah.
Armstrong gets it. They get forced to 3rd down and heave a prayer about 35 yards down the field, where their kid makes a Willie Mays catch over his shoulder between 3 players. So now they're on the 35. They throw 2 quick strikes to pick up about 20 yards to put them on the 15 or 20-yard line with 4 seconds left. And they line up to kick the game-winning field goal. Now, I don't know that I saw them make more than 2 extra points out of the 4 touchdowns or 5 touchdowns that they had. So they line up, and Collegiate calls a timeout to ice him.
Yeah.
Armstrong goes to their sideline, and it's great because you can see it with the way their camera, they kind of let it roll. So you see it play out. The coaches are talking, and a lot of guys are shaking their head. Other guys are, yeah, let's do it. And their offense comes back on the field. Well, I tell you what, that was the worst thing that could have happened, because the quarterback dropped back, threw a prayer into the end zone. One kid boxed out, and instead of knocking the ball down, Collegiate tipped it, and it tipped right into their hands, into Armstrong's hands. Walk-off touchdown. Game over. And I'm watching this alone in my office, like, I don't even have anybody to share this with. But it was it was unbelievable. Like, so many things to take away from that game in terms of how poised Richmond Collegiate was to just march down the field. They were super balanced. It was though they had been in that situation a million times before. Nobody panicked. But then to see Armstrong just, man, never quit. No, never say a die attitude, and go out and get it done. That was a pretty hard fought game. Now, obviously, Richmond Collegiate responded last week to Goochland. They were up really early in that game and had their way in that one on both sides of the ball. So, you kind of get to see the best of both worlds. But it'll be a good fight. There's no doubt. It'll be a great test for us.
Yeah, and the games that I've gone to NSA in the past, I mean, you made reference to the support, but with it being the first home game, I mean, ticket admission is free, so there seems to be plenty of support and school spirit there behind a home Saints football game.
Yeah, I mean, I think we've referenced it a couple times before, but having the perspective I do from being from Virginia Beach, and my dad being at Kellum, and it being a place where, man, it's like generation after generation finds their way through that place. I feel very similar about our place, because we're getting to a point, the school's been around for over 50 years at this point. So we really do have multiple generations of families that have come through here, and the connection from everyone on the field to in the stands to in the faculty is pretty unique. Yeah. So I think that really helps, because you're going to get a second or third generation NSA grad that'll just come out to watch the game.
Yeah.
I was on the track. I got done Sunday breaking this film down, and I was on the track about to work out, and there was an older gentleman and his wife walking their dog, and sure enough, he had been on the board of trustees from 92 to 97, comes to all of our games, just 20-minute conversation about how many of his grandchildren have gone through. And you will find hundreds of people at our game with the same exact story, but it's pretty unique. It's pretty special, and we have a privilege of playing in front of a crowd like that. It's pretty awesome.
Yeah, and then there in the Suffolk News Herald, something to have have a little fun there with the Suffolk high schools, both private school and public school. Nominate a boy, that's up with his stats. Nominate a girl, but yeah, NSA football ended up winning Player of the Week there last week. Here, the voters came to support.
Greer Barkley. Greer
Yeah,
Barkley had himself a day. He did, and I'm really really proud of him. He's one of our captains. Was voted a captain by his peers, which is always, to me, that's one of the biggest honors when your peers point to you as somebody that they look to for leadership. I think that says a lot about the way somebody carries themselves and really what they're about and how other people perceive them, and it's important. But he's a guy that can do a lot of different things at a high level. He plays both sides of the ball for us, but there's not a lot he can't do in terms of offensively or defensively. That particular night, we were getting a lot of man coverage, and he just did a great job of winning his one-on-ones, and Van did a great job of putting him in a position where he can go make a play. But he's somebody that takes advantage of his opportunities, and what I say about Greer a lot is he makes the simple play spectacular a lot of times. Like, it's never just a bubble screen for 4 yards. He's going to make
yeah,
somebody miss, and then he's going to cut, and he's going to turn that 4 yard bubble screen into 8, 10, 12, or even a bigger play. And that's kind of what type of player he is. But he had a lot of opportunities. Like the paper said, he had 5 catches. He probably got thrown at maybe 6 or 7 times. So his catch rate was really high, and he just did everything he could to make a play out of each one of them. It was pretty
yeah,
awesome.
yeah. And while the coaches, didn't have to get ready for a game last week, did you guys hit the road? Because I see that the next home game here at the end of the month is Atlantic Shores. So did you guys spend the end of last week scouting some future opponents?
Yeah, I was torn because my Eagles were on Friday night, but then Shores is right down the street from my house.
Right.
And it's funny, like, my wife knows me better than I know myself. So Wednesday she was like, "So what game are you going to?" And I was like, "The Eagles are on at 8." She's like, "But you'll probably go see a game, right?" And I'm
Right.
like, "I will. I will." Because it's right
That's
down
high school football. Yeah.
there was no excuse. They're right. We play both opponents. They're right down the street. So I did. I went to the Sportsplex and caught Atlantic Shores versus Catholic. And Atlantic Shores is as advertised, which I wasn't surprised about. Micah Lance is somebody I've followed for a while now. I'm pretty close with Coach Lance. I really respect what he does and how he goes about his business. And really, you can turn their film on and see very quickly they're a very well coached team. They play with a lot of purpose and intent. So it was cool to see them in person. But I was telling somebody the other day, the biggest difference sometimes in breaking film down at our level versus, say, the Beach District or somewhere else is, when you're in the beach, you see all those kids really on a weekly basis, if not monthly basis. So there's no guessing in terms of, like, is
Right.
that guy really is he really 6'3", 280? Like, you can get on foot and see these guys. And with us, it's really hard to tell because you don't see everybody all the time, or you see them, really once or twice a year. So it's
Right.
really hard to gauge some of that stuff. So I like going and seeing teams in person, get as close to the field as I can. I'm like, all right, that guy really is 240, or that guy is a lot smaller than 220. And it's just very helpful to see it in person. So I was glad that I got to do that.
Yeah, and actually here with having some notes here and having y'all's schedule. I mean, a little home cooking here in the next 4 weeks. Three home games, and to start off October, there with Catholic, there at home. So that game between Shores and Catholic definitely one where you meet both teams here in the
Hmm.
future.
Yeah, well, and it's cool too because I'm a football nerd. I brought my
Right.
notebook. I broke down a lot of different things in terms of what both of them were doing, but obviously we see Shores before, so I was looking a little bit more on their side of the ball and watching them, for 8 years now, 8 or 9 years. I've had a pretty good look to see how they've progressed offensively and kind of where at least I started watching them versus where they're at right now. And you can kind of get a feel for where they're trying to go and what direction they're trying to move to. And like I said, I have a lot of respect for Coach Lance. He's a pretty innovative dude in terms of what he does offensively with Micah, and having a kid like him, and it's almost like cheating because he knows the system so well that you can make changes on the fly, and you see him do that. I was able, kind of see that firsthand on the sideline in terms of them making some adjustments really mid-drive, which is you don't see that very often. But then to kind of get a feel for the speed at which they're doing things, because that's the other thing you don't get on film. What Coach Lance likes to do at times, especially after big plays, go tempo, which you can't tell that until you're there, which is
Right.
not when you want to be finding that out. So it was really good, like you said, to kind of get a feel for both opponents. And Catholic, that's a first year coach taking
Oh,
over that program. So I really did want to see exactly what they were trying to do offensively. I had a feeling I knew what they were going to do defensively because we saw them in 7-on-7, and that's really hard to kind of hide the structure of your defense. Like you kind of have to show your hand a little bit, but offensively, you never know off 7-on-7. So it was good to see both of them.
yeah. Now with Catholic and Norfolk Academy, and like having TCIS games. I mean, like in August, do you do you guys come together? To talk about conference games, or is it pretty much here with football? You pretty much don't know the other coaches within the TCIS until you play them, or with being in the same conference. Do you guys get together in the off season to talk about rules or whatever?
We're sworn enemies. No, I'm
Oh,
just kidding. We I have a really good relationship with Coach Moniger, Steve over at NA.
yeah.
Like I said, I Catholics coach for the first time this summer. But what we try to do is get together at Norfolk Academy towards the end of the preseason, like right before preseason camp, to do a 7-on-7. And man,
Oh,
there was a point, man, if I'm dating myself now, but it was about 5 or 6 years ago that everybody was there. I mean, it was us. It was Norfolk Academy, obviously. It was Norfolk Christian. It was Portsmouth Christian. Catholic was there. I don't think Shores was there the one time everybody, or the few times that everybody came, but it was a legitimate 7-on-7 tournament with
right,
a round robin deal, and
right.
just like you would have anywhere else. I'd like it to get back to that. because I think it's the way of the world now. If we're not doing it, it means anybody that wants to do is going to have to go into somebody else's, and
Right.
it makes too much sense for us not to just do it amongst ourselves when we're playing each other anyway. Like I think that that does harbor a little bit more of a relationship, and you know, at the end of the day, we're trying to grow private school football, so it would be helpful. But as far as meeting before that, not usually. We'll meet about a week and a half, 2 weeks after the season ends, the regular season ends, to talk about all conference and things like that. And usually at that meeting, we'll bring up some different things that have come up, because that's usually run by either TW Johnson, my AD,
Right.
or the AD at Norfolk Academy, who does a great job. So we can get a lot accomplished in that one night, along with doing the all conference voting. So that's usually how it goes down.
Yeah, and then here we are, few weeks into school. So how's the JV program about ready to start their games?
So we have the JJV, the middle school
Right.
program,
Yeah.
and their first game is tomorrow over at Norfolk Academy. So they'll be really fired up.
Right.
Like I said, they had a scrimmage last week, and they were all indicators was positive. Guys had fun, flew around, and like I said a couple of times, and they've got a great coaching staff. That just does a really good job. Coach Allville, Coach Blackmere, Coach Blewett, those guys care so much about those kids. But what we have, I think, is pretty special because they really want to bridge the gap between what they're doing and helping those kids get prepared for when we get them by using
Yeah.
our verbiage, the structure of our offense and defense, which I know, it's a lot easier to go a different direction a lot of times. It takes more effort, more communication, more sit down meetings between, our staff and their staff, but they've gone the extra mile and done it. So I'm looking forward to hearing the report, and catching some of their games when they play at home, because those kids, man, they truly are the future. We just had a youth clinic this Saturday at our place where we had about 35, I think 35 or
Oh, wow.
40 lower school kids, so ages, kindergarten through grade 5.
Yeah.
And our kids, we probably had 20 players that were the counselors that put on the
Oh,
drills and
cool.
stuff like that. And like, man, there can't be enough opportunities for that to happen,
Yeah.
because those kids think it's the coolest thing in the world, and you're literally harboring the future of your program by doing it. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah, and that also, I mean, I know with my nephew's gone to Greenbrier Christian, and I know that they had like service, assignments that they needed to do. I mean, here with you bring up a clinic that your program has, and how the players from varsity are viewed as the counselors. I mean, so there is high schoolers being taught of being a mentor,
Hmm.
there to an elementary school kid that, even with being a high school player, these little kids, look up to these varsity
Hmm.
players.
Yeah, 100%. I can remember, and I remember the names and faces of guys that I saw at Salem High School. Like I immediately think Matt Carosello, a quarterback at Salem, um, Jake Backus, like middle linebacker. Like these guys were guys that I would high five as they're going on the field when I'm 8, 9, 10 years old. So like, and I said that to our guys, like, hey, be careful what you say, how you say, when you say it around these guys, because they're listening to everything, and they're listening
Right.
to how you say, and they're paying attention to your body language. So, just be aware of that. But our guys do a great job when they're given the opportunity to do a good job. It's just a matter of putting them in the environment so they can go affect kids in a positive way. And I tell you, one hugely positive thing that's going on within our school and our program is our head of school, Mike Barkley, basically started a grassroots, flag football program at our school through
Oh,
the NFL Foundation, where I think we had 150 or so kids involved in it last year, and same thing, all of our players were coaches or referees. And at this point, I spoke to him today. I think they have over 200 kids, and it's an unbelievable deal. They come out um, every weekend. It's 1 day a week. They practice for 45 minutes to an hour, and then they play games after that. And
Oh,
that's the extent of the commitment. So you get kids and parents that can fulfill the commitment and say, "Oh, I can be there for a day," but then you're literally sparking the love of a
right.
game that they wouldn't otherwise be able to get involved in. But our guys, I mean, they run it. They are
Oh,
the sole, you know, founders and holders of this league and make it go, and see some of them be put in some of those leadership positions. Some guys that really wouldn't otherwise have that opportunity has been really cool to see. But to have that many kids on our campus playing football, I mean, that you can't get anything better than that.
right. Yeah. Well, and to have NSA players that are playing Saturdays in the fall, I mean, we definitely got to start with George and JMU going back to UNC here at high noon on Saturday.
Yeah, and I know he's going to be fired up regardless. We've been texting back and forth these last couple weeks, and I don't want to sound arrogant or cocky or anything, but nothing he's doing is surprising. He just needed an opportunity to go show what he's capable of, and I'm just so happy for him because I've said it before, the amount of maturity and growing up that he did from the time we got him as a ninth grader to the time he left, and then even more so when he got to UNC to this point at JMU, he's just got a great perspective. He understands what's important, what's not, which is really tough, I think, in 2024 for a college athlete like him that's getting some notoriety and making plays and being tugged in different directions. Man, all he wants to do is put his best foot forward, make his mom and dad proud, and go make the most of this opportunity that he has. And he's going to continue to make plays. I can tell you that much. And the more acclimated he gets to their offense, the more electric he's going to do in terms of making plays. I've got a bunch of friends. Like I think I might be the one of the only one of my high school friends that didn't go to JMU, minus like maybe one or two that went to Virginia Tech out of a friend group of about 8 or 10.
Right.
And so they're all tuned in. And I didn't get a chance to see the game this weekend, but I had multiple friends from high school that are like, "This kid is amazing." I'm like, "I know."
Right.
I saw it firsthand. Like that
Right.
wheel route, we used to do the same thing because he's really good. But it's just really cool for others to see something that we've always seen in him, but to do it on a bigger stage like that is pretty amazing.
Yeah, and Isaiah over at Elon, I think they're playing Western Carolina, you know, this weekend, and I know at the beginning of the season they started off with Duke, which is not far, but starting off with a ACC school there a couple weeks ago, but they're now starting to play teams on the same level, and then they'll get into conference here in a couple weeks.
Yeah, and he's doing a great job, and it looked like he was going to see some time against Duke because they had a couple guys go down in the receiver room, and in the way of the college football world, a couple guys get cleared, they get back, and coaches end up going with guys that they know have kind of thrived in that situation before they put a freshman who's kind of untested in that situation in. But man, he's going to be fine. He's earning the respect of those coaches just because when those guys went down, he had to pick up the workload. I think a lot of people don't understand that when a starter goes down, it's not like they just take that position away during practice. Somebody has to go in, and then that's about making the most of that opportunity. And he did that and some. So when his number is called, there's not really going to be any hesitation, and he's only getting better every day. I mean, maturing physically, but also, man, his football IQ in the last 3 months has grown exponentially, which is funny because I like to tell him all the time when he was with us, like, you're a smart high school player, but you got a lot to learn.
Right.
And now, after being in a college system for 3 months, he's like, hey, man, I had a lot to learn. Like, there's a lot
Right.
of details. I'm like, yeah, like your splits, the depth of your route, that stuff matters at that level. You can get away with it here, but
Right.
nah, he found out real quick. But man, he's a gamer. He's gonna figure it out. There's not a situation that he will find himself in that he can't figure out, and that's what I know about him. So he's gonna be fine, and we'll be seeing him make plays real soon.
Yeah, and then a kid that we talked about before we started, taping, but Griffin Dugan here with being a member of the Hokies and Virginia Tech here coming to Old Dominion here on Saturday evening, and you want to talk about some NSA representation between both schools.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
know,
big time.
that'd be pretty cool if he travels and with being a NSA alum here for Hokie football.
Yeah, yeah. And I was texting with him. It's funny, man, because once the season starts, I feel like the days and weeks kind of get blended together because you're in such a tunnel vision, which I'm really lucky to have the wife that I do that understands exactly what's going on day to day and where my head is at some points. But Griffin texted me or messaged me earlier today and was like, "Hey, are you guys playing Friday or Saturday?" I'm like, "Yeah, we're playing Friday night at home." He's like, "Oh man, you want to come to the game?" I'm like, "I don't know what game you're talking about, buddy." And he was like, "Well, we're coming down to ODU. I'm pretty sure I'm going to travel, but I'll let you know. But would love to have you there." And I'm like, "Buddy, like if you're traveling, I'll do what I got to do to make it there." But it's again, man, to see a kid like that who persevered, and he is such an example of how so many high school kids got the short end of the stick during COVID because he was a scholarship player. There's no doubt about it. But when everything happened and those scholarships kind of dried up really quick because they had to give them to the returning players, he was one of the kids that had to carry the brunt of that. But to see what he's doing now at Tech, and man, he loves that staff. He's a Hokie through and through. I'm excited to see how the changes to the roster expansion is going to affect him because he'll be on scholarship, this time next year. But then as a fifth year, he'll have an option to go wherever he wants, really. So to see him make the progress that he has, man, you talk about a success story. I told him too, he's going to go into coaching. Like
Right.
he's not 100, but he's going to go into coaching though. I'm
Yeah.
Griff. I just want 1 year after you get out and come on home and share what you've learned with these guys from NSA, and that would be awesome. But he's doing a great job there.
And Mike, I know that no NSA ties on this one, but definitely some Mike Biehl ties. Let's talk about the team that Chris Beatty's at and the Bears win. You know,
He's
that's
amazing. He
yeah,
finds himself. He's Coach Beatty is a great example of what treating people the right way all the time, regardless of circumstances, can get you, because that's really that's how he's gotten to where he's gotten. You look at his trajectory and where he started from, in Northern Virginia at North Stafford High School, and it comes down to Virginia Beach and does what he does with us. But each stop along the way, he made, lifelong bonds
yeah,
with kids, coaches, administrators, teachers, to where, man, I sometimes feel bad reaching out because I know there's 300 other people reaching out at the same time because he's affected that many people.
right,
But man, it's just been awesome to see him put his mark on that offense, because there's different things that principally he believes in offensively that if you've watched him from one stop to the next, you can kind of see where he's put his imprint on different things, and he's got it firmly on this offense. But man, that receiving room is that's a pretty talented room he's got there. But that's he's always found himself in those rooms where it seems like the best player on the offense is in his room, being taught by him and mentored by him, and that's not a coincidence. So to see them go out and, I'm sure it wasn't as clean as they would have liked offensively. Looking at some of the stuff, a win's a win in the
Right.
NFL. They're really hard to come by. So I don't think he's complaining about it, but it's awesome.
Yeah. And then also, I know that he's going to keep on working and wait for his time again. But, definitely Cole there with Kansas City and how he's worked, just an example of, hey, if you put the time in and do the work, to where Cole's gotten, and with him being an NSA alum, definitely good to see him, practice squad. But hey, one person gets hurt, next man up.
Well, and that's the thing. Like, if anybody were to scoff at somebody saying they're on the practice squad, they really don't know what they're talking about when it comes to playing professional football in the NFL. Because for them to have kept Cole is really a feather in his cap, because he's been on the 53
Right.
multiple years in a row. He's got 2 Super Bowl rings to prove it, where he played in those games. So it's not like he's a journeyman that's just hanging on to a job. Like they kept him for a specific reason. And really, if I had to guess without being in that organization, it's to make sure they have depth at that position later down the road when you don't want anybody to get hurt, but in the NFL, it's bound to happen at some point. And to know that they have this guy that can step into really any of those linebacker roles as well as any special team, that's pretty valuable guy to have. But him being a team player, I gotta believe he had other options to go sign and be on different practice squads. But he knows what that organization's about. I think they looked out for him as much as he's loyal to them. So it's a really cool thing to see. But back to your point, anybody who says, they can't do something from a specific environment, you need to just look at that guy. Like, he literally created his own perfect story by just going and doing the work, like you said. But man, he's Captain America. He's unbelievable.
Yeah.
We're proud of him.
You're right. Yeah. Even with, just seeing them, play here in the area, but not knowing him or his family personally, but, just following them there, going to West Point. And then even the first Super Bowl, he wasn't on the active roster, but he was on the sidelines, and to get a ring and then to be on the active roster there last year and to get another ring. Hey, kudos to him, and just
do they recover the punt if he's not on the field?
right.
Like, I remember the play.
That's
Game-changing play. He's the one
right.
that cleaned that hit up. Those are memories that'll play in his and his family's memory forever.
Right.
And he's like, to me, he's like the Forrest Gump of NSA. Like, he's shaking the hand of a president. He's played in the Army Navy game, and Super Bowl. Played in these. Like, he's unbelievable, man. We're really proud of him, though.
Well, hey, Mike, I know that we went a little bit over tonight, but had some extra stuff, and especially with a bye week, wanted to highlight some NSA alums here that are playing on Saturdays, and then bring up Cole. And I know with your relationship here with Chris Beatty, and his accomplishments. But hey, I'll let you go, and go Saints there Friday night, and first home game here. Should be a great crowd. So have a good rest of the week, and go Saints.
I appreciate it. Have a good one, Rags.
All right. So for all the Saints fans out there, Varsity football home first home game here the 24 season this Friday at what 7 o'clock kickoff.
7 o'clock, seven
Yeah.
o'clock sharp. Be there. No
All
admission.
right.
Bring your family.
Yeah. All right. Talk to you later.
Thanks
Okay.
a lot.
All right.